Welcome everyone for another edition of SportsbookReview.com, and it's all about the early value in the NFC prior to the draft. We're going to try and find numbers that are never going to get bigger than they are now. And if they do get bigger late next season, then it's because they've got no chance. I've got an esteemed panel, experienced panel, and a respected panel. I've got Donnie, I've got Drew, and I've got Teddy. And we're going to start off with the NFC West. Teddy, I'm going to start with you. Last year's finalists, the 49ers, the Seahawks, the Rams, and the Cardinals.
So San Fran as the favorite here, I think is a vulnerable favorite. So right from the top, we have the Super Bowl losers curse. We have a quarterback who kind of got shown that maybe he's not what, is what we thought they were in the postseason. We have a receiving core that lost their best weapon in free agency. There are reasons to think the 49ers are going to decline. I'm not bullish on the LA Rams, a team that lost a ton in the offseason. A team, we talk about teams that are heavy on the salary cap. The Rams have all of their top personnel tied up, which leaves them with very little flexibility. So for me, that leaves two teams I'm interested in from a value standpoint, either Seattle or Arizona. Arizona, probably a great bet a month ago. But when you make an addition like picking up Hopkins, and basically every move that the Cardinals have made this offseason has been, we're going to compete now, as opposed to we're going to compete in the future. Arizona, a lot of the value has been taken out of them, which leaves me with Seattle as the choice right now. A team, again, with the QB we trust, best quarterback in the division in Seattle, a coach we trust, a defense we trust, and a pretty good attractive plus price on the Seahawks to win the division. So from a value standpoint, that's where I'm looking right now. Seahawks to win the NFC West.
Drew, I agree with Teddy. The Seahawks at plus 350. That's because the 49ers at plus 120. I love their D. I'm just worried about their offense. I think the Seahawks at the value at plus 350 to win the division might be the way that I go.
Yeah, I don't hate that look. I wish it was a little bit better price-wise. I think for sure you're getting the best quarterback, which is always nice. I think for sure the Seahawks are going to be in every single game on their schedule. You're not going to be able to look at their schedule when it comes out and say, oh, well, there's a loss. No, they're going to be in every single game. The unfortunate part is that includes the games where they should be hands down, beating the pants off their opponent. They're still going to, be in some of those kind of coin flip type of games because they don't have the greatest offensive approach. They don't have the greatest defensive roster, especially in the secondary. They have some serious holes in the back end there. And we've seen years where that's been the case, and Pete Carroll has coached up his guys, and they've been all of a sudden like, wow, who's this guy? Like, wow, he's making plays in the secondary. This guy's playing well. And so that's always a possibility. They have done a great job of drafting and developing players throughout the year, and Pete Carroll could pull some magic out of his hat in terms of getting great play out of his defense. I do agree that San Francisco is a favorite that is fair to be taken on. I think a lot of their success last year, especially over the first 8 weeks of the season, was based on their defense being outstandingly healthy and their schedule being relatively easy. They weren't asked to do much. They weren't asked to beat the best in the world until the second half of the season. And so you got a chance to build a little bit of momentum, get a little bit of confidence in that locker room. And that goes a long way in terms of, getting your team into the position to win your division. And even all of that said, it took a 4th and an inch stop at the goal line in week 17 for them to even clinch the NFC West last year. Like, people forget about it because obviously they went on a run to go to the Super Bowl, had lead in the Super Bowl, almost were the NFL title winners. But it was very close for them, letting that slip away, even after having such an incredible lead, with the start they had the last season. So without a question, you can't necessarily predict their defense to be as good this year as it was last year. Without question, they're going to have a much tougher schedule, having now being, kind of put in the spotlight, a lot of primetime games. And they're going to get everybody's best shot. All of that is real. And so I think the way I would take this on, because I don't have a special confidence in the Seahawks, I don't have a special confidence in the Cardinals, I do think that the Rams are likely to take a step back, but they still have an innovative offensive approach and some incredibly talented weapons on offense. And they have the best defender in the entire conference in Aaron Donald still on their roster. Jalen Ramsey's no slouch either. So there's enough talent on the Rams that I think you can't completely write them off. So I think the right way to track this bet down is to find a two-way market with the Niners, yes, no, and bet them no.
Okay, we're going to go
Basically,
no.
you get all the other three.
Sorry, Drew?
Basically, take on the other three.
Yeah. Donnie, we're not like over the moon with last year's Super Bowl finalists. Do you think we might get our hands burnt?
I don't know, because if I'm still taking a look at the San Francisco 49ers and getting a plus price, I'm more apt to bite on that. I mean, let's remember, this was, to me, the best team in football last year and the best team in football with a double-digit lead. And then Patrick Mahomes happened, which he does a lot. You get beat by one of those all-time performances, you have to shake your head. Now, there are some parts that you do want to look into, and that's, yes, coming in this year, Emmanuel Sanders is now off this football team. But there is something to be said about taking that decline the following year where you went to the Super Bowl. And look, this wasn't one of those teams that rose up from like a lower level seeding here, a wild card team heading into the playoffs. This team was supposed to get to the Super Bowl. This team was supposed to win the Super Bowl. I thought they would win the Super Bowl, put my money on them to win the Super Bowl. They didn't do it. So now you're going to have to take a step back. But also, when you took a look at this league, who can actually come and take the spot in the NFC West from the San Francisco 49ers? I think we're a little bit too early on the Arizona Cardinals. I do like the direction they're heading in. I like their offensive philosophy. It can be exciting at times. You just have to get that defense in order and have a head football coach that says, you know what, let me see how I can meld that a college approach that I took to an NFL perspective, which will have some time to do it, and they certainly improved. The Los Angeles Rams, they're in a tough spot still with one of the best head coaches in the National Football League, but it all is based on the quarterback. What did you see from Jared Goff last year? It says, you know what, outside of the previous year's regular season where he was very good, fell apart in the Super Bowl and seemed like he had that malaise all last year. So then that we bring it right back to the 49ers and say, well, wait a second, Jimmy G played really well throughout the season. Then you got to the playoffs and Channing says, whoa, let's just rely on this defense. Hey, Jimmy, don't lose this football game. And then you got into the Super Bowl where he couldn't win that football game after he had the lead. That certainly makes sense. But if we're taking a look at Seattle, yes, absolutely one of the single best players in football, mans them at quarterback and Russell Wilson. But the problem I have with Seattle, why did they have such a really good home field advantage? Yes, the crowd was loud and on top of you and you created false starts, but that was an unbelievable defense. The Legion of Boom in the secondary, young up-and-coming linebacking core, a defensive line that can get after you. That has been a systematic decline of that defense, taking away and stripping away talent over the past 3 to 4 years. Hey, man, how much longer can Bobby Wagner hold up and hold that entire defense apart? You make the move to go out and get Jadeveon Clowney. If you don't sign him back, that defense is going to be vulnerable, and some of these teams are going to be able to get after it, which brings it back to, hey, Russell Wilson, you're worth your weight in gold. You got to win every single game for us because, as Drew brings up a point, they're going to be in every game, not because their defense is good, not because their wide receivers make plays. Just by Russell Wilson being on the field, you're going to be in that football game. I would hate to see it if he gets banged up or dinged up a little bit because we expect the world out of Russell Wilson. If he even plays electric football next year, that doesn't even guarantee to even have a winning season in that league. So if I'm taking a look at it right now, you give me that plus money flash, I'm still going to take the 49ers here.
Okay, 49ers for Donnie. I'm happy to go with the Seahawks. Drew, not so sure. And Teddy thinks that maybe the Seahawks and the Cardinals, and we take them on. We take on the 49ers. Let's go over to the NFC North because I think there's a team here that are so overpriced. We've got the Packers at plus 140, the Vikings at plus 310, the Bears at plus 550, and the Lions at plus 900. But Drew, what about the Packers? Get a little bit on them at plus 3,400 for the Super Bowl.
Yeah, wow. This is a team that is primed for regression. That is a really, really ambitious number. People associate Aaron Rodgers as one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, but his play last year was pretty pedestrian. And all around him, this is a team that's recycling talent and, stocking up on the fly. They've never been big spenders in free agency. They don't have answers at a couple of key positions here. It's really the Devontae Adams show or nothing for them in the passing offense. And, it's going to be very difficult for Matt LaFleur in his second year to replicate the success that he had last year. I don't think this is a double-digit win team by any stretch of the imagination. And I definitely don't think they should be the outstanding favorites in the NFC North that to me looks like it is going to be a dogfight. This looks top to bottom like you are going to be trading wins that I don't know that I have confidence in any of these four teams getting multiple road wins in division. This looks like a very, very even division top to bottom. And so looking to back any of these teams at a price shorter than 4-1 is tough ask. I would say if I would probably not going to bet this division at all. But I don't hate the price for Detroit. Honestly, Detroit has got outstanding quarterback play from Matt Stafford last year before he got hurt. The numbers would suggest if you got a full season from him, he would have been, up there in the conversation, top 10 quarterback in the league easily. If you get a full 16 games out of him. So maybe with a little bit extra rest and a little bit of time off, he comes back and he's ready to fire. He's got an outstanding receiving core he's throwing to. And they've spent in free agency. Now, whether they've brought in guys who can make a meaningful difference or not is a different question. They're bringing in a lot of cast-offs from the Patriots, and that never tends to work out long-term. But maybe those guys still have one more year in them. So it's if anything, I'm probably taking a shot on Detroit just because I don't have confidence in any of these four teams. But your original question about Green Bay, there's probably no team more suited for a regression season than the Green Bay Packers this year. The fact that they were the number 2 seed at all last year was kind of insane. And I don't think they can count on a double-digit win season. No way, no how.
And the way the Packers were beat up so blatantly and brutally by the 49ers just keeps bringing back to mind, and I'm thinking to myself that they're not going to be able to stop them. Teddy, find us an angle here, because for me, this is the NFC North.
So I agree with everything that Drew said 100%. And it's an old horse racing adage, all right? When the money's getting split between the favorites, you find a long shot. Who's the best quarterback in this division this year? It ain't on Chicago, all right? It ain't on Minnesota, all right? Your choice is Aaron Rodgers or Matthew Stafford. Aaron Rodgers is the favorite. Matthew Stafford's a 9 or 10-1 dog to win the division. It's a no-brainer that Detroit's the value play here. It really is. The Packers are vulnerable. They did way overachieve last year. Green Bay under-season wins in a competitive division makes a ton of sense. The Bears, both sides of the ball weren't any good. Am I convinced that this is the year that Trubisky figures it out? Or, and then they're like, we have all of these possible backups we can bring in. Let's bring in the one that can't possibly help us win a game in Nick Foles. And let's pay him too. And defensively, Chicago dropped off significantly last year. So I'm not sold on the Packers or the Bears. And again, Kirk Cousins is who he is. All right. You asked me, I got one game to win. And my choice is I'm going to take the Lions in their roster or the Vikings in their roster. I want the team with the quarterback that makes plays. I'll take Stafford. I think Detroit is live to win the division. And you don't see a lot of teams that are live to win divisions at 9-1 or 10-1. Lions are one of them.
Yeah, and the other thing is people have got to remember about the Lions is that they've snatched defeat at the jaws of victory so many times last year, Donnie, where they were in winning positions, and they end up coming away with an L.
Yeah, I was a believer in the Detroit Lions last year, but again, you can't foresee your quarterback going down. And if we're taking a look at the draft here, because let's just say it's 10-1 odds that you have the Detroit Lions, the only thing that could really mess that up for you is why we like to get these videos out before the draft is, let's just say they do something crazy at 3, take Tua Tagovailoa and move on from Matthew Stafford, or get that, succession plan in place, which I don't think they will, because we're taking a look at a quarterback, 31, 32 years old. He could theoretically play another 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or 10 years in the NFL. I don't think it's ready to pull the plug yet on Matthew Stafford. But if we're taking a look overall here, the thing I just can't get out of my mind is every time we talk about the Green Bay Packers, let's just say in another 10 years, we're going to do one of these panels and say, how the heck did Aaron Rodgers only go to 1 Super Bowl in his time? It's the Green Bay Packers. I don't know if their front office just doesn't want to spend the money to bring the right players in. Wouldn't you ever just want to at one time go all in and see what he can actually do at quarterback instead of playing, hey, let's play it cheap here. Let's not go with anything. We have the quarterback. We'll always be in play over the next 5 to 6 years, but we won't go all in. We'll see what happens. It's amazing that you sit here and talk about the Green Bay Packers in this division, that if they did the right things, they will be head and shoulders above every football team here, but they're not. So then you take a look at the Minnesota Vikings, what they did, losing Stephon Diggs, and you can argue what they did on defense, losing some talent, but overall, maybe they even improved their secondary by the guys they actually lost. Mike Zimmer's still a really good football coach, and they're going to have some draft picks, but the team I settle on here just for value early on is I do look at the Chicago Bears at a 4-1 price to win the division. Do I think they can absolutely win it? No. but you're taking a look at a defense that's going to be ready and loaded for bear this year. And look, I always like to break it down in the simplest terms. You go to a football game, you tailgate, you drink some beers, and one of your buddies says, hey, Donnie, do you want to go have a catch here before the game? And you say to yourself, man, I don't want to have a catch with this guy, because you end up chasing the football down the parking lot the entire time. That's what you had last year with Mitchell Trubisky. I'm talking about 5-6 yard plays Trubisky just couldn't make. It was amazing to see how far back he has come when you had some promise over those first 2 years. I think Nick Foles can just make this offense work and keep them in ball games. And if we're taking a look at value before the draft, I'll sit on the 4-1 ticket, because I just think they're improved if Mitchell Trubisky doesn't play.
Yeah, listen, this is an absolute nightmare that we're going to enjoy watching. I think we're going to enjoy watching it, because it ain't going to have any of our money on it, and we're not going to throw any money away. But the NFC West and the NFC North, I think we both take on the favourites. We take on 49ers and we take on the Packers. You watch. They'll both be there at playoff time. Thank you, Donnie. Thank you, Drew. Thank you, Teddy. Until next time, this has been sportsbookreview.com. If you like this video, then press the subscribe button, ring the bell, and we'll speak to you soon. You take care.